I was recently watching some of my older videos, and in particular, the bowl for October, I believe is what it was called, or bowl for Halloween. I don't know. I'll put a link to it. It was kind of a silly idea with the pumpkin and painting the bowl orange and stuff like that, but I really had a lot of fun doing that. However, the one thing that I realized was I don't think I've actually done a textured bowl like that since, and that's been almost not quite a year, but right there under it, which is hard to believe. But yeah, it got me wanting to do a textured bowl again. Now, I sort of do have a design in mind that I thought this piece of oak would be perfect for. However, it'll be one of these things that I need to stop and reevaluate as I turn the outside here. And really, I don't even know if I'd call this a textured bowl per se like I did with the October piece. I want to say the technical term for what I'm wanting to add to this bowl is called flutes, but don't quote me on that. Y'all can correct me later on once you see what I actually have in mind. But with that said, let me get the outside shaped here, and I will catch back up once I start carving those in. Alright, well, I feel like I have reached a good stopping point with the shape, and I'm happy with it so far. No issues in the wood. The only little thing is there's a soft spot here right in the oak, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. When the wood dries, I probably could just put some CA glue or something just to stiffen it up, but we'll see. I'm fingers crossed it doesn't cause too many issues. But yeah, so what I'll be doing today is I'll be using my Makita die grinder with a 1/2 inch sphere rotary burr, I believe that's what they're called. But, I'm gonna try to do, like I said earlier, flutes. They're not so random like the texture from the October Bowl. They'll be straight down the side here, right to this turning point on the edge. And it'll just go all the way around. But I've never done anything like that, so I'm really curious to see how it'll turn out. But yeah, let me get my grinder set up and we will get this carved. Alright, well the texturing is done and that went a little bit easier than I anticipated. I was a little nervous about getting these flutes straight and even, but using the tool rest really did help with that. Overall, I'm a little torn on this, to be completely honest with you. I actually really like the shape and I love the flutes. I just don't know if I like them together. But this is a experimental piece, I guess, but also I don't want to judge it too quickly. I want to wait until the bowl is actually finished. It's got oil, it's sanded, oiled, and everything else before I actually jump to conclusions. Because I may end up loving it. I've done that in the past where I don't like a piece during the process, but after it's all said and done, I'm really happy with it. So before I make any judgments, I'm going to wait for that. But with that said, we're all done on the outside, so let's flip this thing around so we can get it hollowed out. Alright, so after sitting for a few weeks, the oak bowl is finally dried and ready to be sanded, and everything turned out nicely. No major cracks or issues. There was some warping that happened with the bowl, but I actually did want that to happen, and I think it adds a really unique and cool look to this. And like I said, when I was turning this piece, there was some softwood here at the top part of the bowl, and I ended up using some thin CA glue to kind of beefing that up a little bit, and it seemed to have helped, but we'll ultimately find out once I start sanding. And there was a little knot towards the bottom of the bowl when I was hollowing it out that created some gaps as it was drying, so I just took some black CA glue to fill that in. Other than those two things, everything turned out nicely, and I've kind of got a little idea I want to try for the finish on this. That's a little non-traditional for me, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But with all that said, I feel like I've got a little bit of sanding ahead of me with this one, so let me get my mask on so I can get started on that. Alright, so the bowl is finally sanded, and that took a little longer than I expected, but it's alright. And to be completely honest, the normal flutes here, they were not too terrible to sand. They actually went fairly smooth. No pun intended. But the hardest part, or the part that gave me the most trouble, was where I ended up having to use the CA glue to beefing up the wood there where it was pretty thin and soft. Those would just not come clean. They kept tearing away. And I've done that in the past, and it's worked fairly well. But for some reason, what I think it is where the wood's it's thinner than normal, and it's the two peaks where the two flutes meet. That was the most troublesome part because they kept tearing away, and to me, it doesn't look good now. It kind of ruined that section of the bowl, but like I've said a few times during this video, this is definitely an experimental bowl. I'm just trying new things, and the one thing I've learned is if I want to do this again, definitely find a piece of wood that doesn't have a soft spot, because that would make life 10 times easier. But with that said, let me grab what I actually want to finish the outside with so we can get to that part. So here's what I'll be finishing this bowl with today, and if you don't know what that is, it's India ink, and it's simply just a dye that turns the wood very, very black, and it works really well on woods like oak, which is what I have today, hickory, ash, very porous woods like that. Now, I'll only be doing the outside of the wood because I think the contrast between the black and the natural browns and reds of the oak will just look really pretty. The only thing I'm a little hesitant about is where I put the CA glue, and that, it clogged up the grain and it will only be splotchy or won't take there, but we'll see. I'm not going to worry too much about it because, like I've said 1,000 times, this is an experimental piece. But with that said, let me grab a rag so we can get this stuff applied. Alright, well the oak bowl is finished, and I've got to say I'm really happy that I decided to use the India ink. It went on a lot better than I actually expected, especially around that area with the CA glue. It ended up being just a tad bit splotchy, but not horrible. It is acceptable, so I will take it. And if you do any sort of turning or woodworking, I highly recommend giving this effect a try. It's fairly simple and easy to do, and you can use India ink like I did, or you can use a dye or a stain. I just personally think it's a really cool look with the natural tones of the wood versus the solid color that you decide to use, and in my case, black. But that's going to be it for this video, and if you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comments. I always do appreciate those. And if you like turning or woodworking videos, be sure to subscribe. But with all that said, here are the final shots of the oak bowl.